CTV News with Angela Mackenzie.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Montreal is fast-tracking a plan to get dozens of empty apartments back on the market. The city says the project won't solve the housing crisis, but could help some at risk of falling into homelessness. Laurence Brisson-Dubroy reports.
For 45 people, a new home could be just weeks away. Montreal is spending $540,000 to quickly renovate 45 vacant apartments, making them available for those who may soon have nowhere to stay. Mayor Soraya Martinez-Ferrada says it's a small number of units, but a meaningful step.
The work that we need to do in terms of working with Quebec to also support the clientele is huge. It's very important. But having today 45 apartments that were not accessible today and will be in 2 months, it's a big deal.
They're part of the city's housing stock of more than 5,000 units across Montreal. About 100 of those apartments are currently vacant and in need of some work, mostly only minor repairs, including painting or plumbing fixes before they can be occupied.
Having some vacancy is also healthy. Now, having homes that are not been able to be rented because they're not renovated or accessible, that is not healthy.
But tenants' rights advocates say the announcement also highlights a bigger issue. Margaret Van Newton of Project Genesis says the need for affordable housing investment remains urgent.
So many people are homeless. It's just such a shame, and you really have to ask about budget priorities that this would be allowed to continue, that there are the number of vacant dwellings.
The issue extends beyond Montreal. Housing advocacy group Frappru says more than 2,100 households across Quebec are currently receiving help finding a place to live, which is up from last year. And Van Newton says many others are living in precarious conditions that often go unseen.
There's a lot of invisible homelessness. People housed so precariously that, we can't really say that they are housed. We see many people who are not in appropriate housing situations, just a step away from the street.
Officials say they're also exploring other options, including the possibility of acquiring vacant condos and converting them into affordable housing. Laurence Brisson-Dubroy, CTV News.
Canada's most wanted fugitive may be behind bars tonight in Europe. Al Boivin was reportedly captured by police in Marbella, Spain today. The 36-year-old is wanted for several alleged crimes, including drug trafficking, organized crime, aggravated assault, kidnapping, breaking and entering, and weapons trafficking. He has also alleged ties to conflicts that erupted between motorcycle gangs in Quebec back in 2022.
Attacking the Hells Angels and causing all the chaos and torture and severe crimes, extortions, aggravated assaults up to murder. So it's very significant.
Boivin has been on the run since February 2023. Police say he's a close associate of Dave Turmel, the alleged leader of the Blood Family Mafia, who was arrested in Italy last year. Well, a 72-year-old Quebec man is convicted of manslaughter in a Montreal cold case from 1996, and he is appealing the verdict. He's scheduled to appear in court on July 21st. Serge Audette was found guilty in May in the death of 25-year-old Patricia Ferguson. His sentencing hearing was supposed to take place in October. The Crown is seeking the maximum sentence for manslaughter, which is life in prison. Ferguson's body has never been found. Well, Calgary police conducted an investigation into possible coordinated threats targeting officers following the weeks of violence which killed 3 police officers across the country. The latest was Monday's shooting here in Montreal, when a man from Lethbridge, Alberta, killed 1 officer and injured another. Tyson Fedor reports.
Calgary's police chief says her members are remaining vigilant following the death of a Montreal police officer earlier this week.
It's gut-wrenching. It's so impactful. And as I said, this has become an attack on our profession.
Despite attacks stretching from Quebec and Ontario to Saskatchewan, police in our city say there are no coordinated threats against officers here. But investigators will not share specifics about intelligence, and they are working with other jurisdictions, including the RCMP.
The members who go out every day to protect and serve this city, knowing that at any minute they face risk, they face increased crime and complexity.
The Police Association says the job of an officer has become more dangerous due to increased violent crime and repeat offenders out on bail.
These are a reminder that no matter how safe you are, there's always people out there who are looking to harm our members. I think the job is more dangerous than it has ever been. We see more guns coming off the street. We see more violent crime, and I think it's a narrative about society overall. We see a mental health system that's overworked and at its breaking point.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford wants police safety near the top of the agenda at next month's Premier's meeting. Alberta says it shares his concerns. Calgary's mayor says workplace safety must remain a top priority for all first responders.
So we need to remain vigilant. We need to step up and support our first responders. We need to advocate for the tools, specifically around sentencing and bail reform, to be able to address these offenders.
One criminologist says it's rare for violent attacks on police officers despite the recent shootings and assaults. But Kelly Sundberg adds it leaves a challenging impression.
It makes it very difficult for the police to recruit. Who wants to join a profession where you potentially could get killed?
Sundberg blames toxic social media messaging for an increase in distaste towards police officers.
We have to start looking at where are these attitudes developing and what can we do to change them.
Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.
Montreal police have announced that the civic funeral for the police officer shot and killed on Monday will be held the week of July 6th. In an email to CTV News, Montreal police say the exact date and time for Mohamed Lamine Ben Redouan's funeral will be announced shortly. In 2022, Quebec became the first province in Canada to bring in electronic tracking bracelets to protect victims of domestic violence. Christine Long looked into how well the technology is working 4 years on.
In the monitoring center, a real-time view of abusers' locations in Quebec. The dots represent hundreds of anti-approach ankle monitors, each worn by someone accused or convicted of domestic abuse.
To ensure victim safety, as that's always the priority.
Commissionnaire du Québec Security Experts is a non-profit organization hired by the province and partnered with law enforcement. The firm is in charge of monitoring the movements of abusers, not their victims.
We ensure that victims have confidentiality and can go about their daily lives without feeling tracked. The monitoring center does not know victim location unless there is a danger or a proximity situation happening.
If an abuser goes within the court-ordered perimeter of their victim, they get loud warnings through their ankle monitor and are told to turn back. If they don't, police are then called to intervene.
Très bien.
Priscilla Thiers says 96% of warnings are resolved without police intervention and without panicking the victim unnecessarily.
Manage things without having victims receive that call and ensure their safety at the same time, then we avoid calling.
Melpa Camateros of Shield of Athena Family Services says she called for this technology years ago.
It reinforces the security and it has less potential of the abusive partner getting close and getting a chance to kill, their ex-wives or intimate partners and their children.
Camatero says until this program, victims had to fend for themselves.
It's the first time that the onus of the responsibility for the violence, instead of being put on the victim to protect herself, is put directly on the abusive person.
Recently, a wearer in Quebec cut off his ankle monitor, triggering a police response. He was picked up within 24 hours. Camatero says victims are more worried about when the monitor is removed permanently.
A bigger fear is for them going back to court and trying to convince the judge that they should remove it legally. So that's a bigger fear.
Christine Long, CTV News.
The labor market in Quebec is facing some challenges. There are concerns for young Anglophones in particular who face higher rates of unemployment and are making less money than Francophone youth. Matt Grillo reports.
For so many years, Anglophones have been told they need to master French if they want to find work in Quebec. And yet, speaking French is still a major concern for young Anglophones entering the workforce.
For English-speaking youth, for some of them, it's the language barrier. It's not being fluent enough in French or thinking that they're not fluent enough in French, because that's often what we notice as well.
Rosalie DeLolo helps English-speaking Quebecers find jobs, and she says language comes up every day. PERT, the Provincial Employment Roundtable, compiled data from the 2021 census. It shows unemployment is higher for English-speaking youth, 13.1%, compared to 7.8% for Francophones. Anglophone Quebecers from 25 to 34 years old earned an income of about $33,000 a year, approximately $6,000 less than French people in the same age bracket. DeLolo says it can take an Anglophone up to 2 years to find the right job.
A French-speaking person can take anywhere between 6 weeks to 7-8 months to find employment. So an English-speaking person or a person that doesn't live within that majority can take even longer.
Jack Jedwab has looked at the numbers and says it warrants further study.
Ultimately, the political will needs to be there to address these issues. They don't strike me anyways as being enough of a priority for decision makers in Quebec. And clearly, you would think that Quebec would like to retain its youth, independent of what their first language is, English or French.
The minister responsible for relations with English-speaking Quebecers, Christopher Skeet, says he's concerned about these statistics, and he says the problem is a top priority for Quebec.
I freely admit that one of my passions would be to probably have more courses available for people after school. But if kids are graduating in high school and are not prepared, I think we need to have a serious conversation with the English school board system, who are elected officials who should be accountable to parents.
It can be very difficult for English-speaking youth looking for employment.
They increasingly feel excluded from Quebec. It's not that they don't want to belong to society. It's almost like they're receiving the message that they don't belong. And that's extremely hurtful for them too, and it affects them.
DeLolo says she sees a lot of motivation from Anglophone youth, committed to making it work in Quebec to build their future here rather than another province. Matt Grillo, CTV News.
Talks between Metro and its warehouse workers have stalled after the grocery chain rejected the union's latest offer. The union says its counteroffer was meant to bridge the gap, but Metro shot it down, saying it doesn't reflect today's competitive reality. Workers are demanding better wages and have been on strike since the end of March.
The union's position is that this is a completely deplorable tactic. It's an intimidation tactic towards our workers. We want to keep negotiating. We're really not that far off. It's a salary-based negotiation at this point. We want a fair deal. The employer says our demands are too high. We think their offers are too low, but there's a way to keep negotiating, and the employer needs to get back to that table.
The union represents more than 500 workers. Well, there are concerns about drug shortages that are leaving patients and pharmacists scrambling. Now, one pharmacist is calling for action from both provincial and federal governments to help fix the issue. Siobhan Morris reports.
2 drops in the morning. Kirsten Campbell was thrown for a loop last week when she tried to refill a prescription for eye drops.
No, can't be to anger, and then I was in a bit of a panic.
She's been using Combigan for years to treat glaucoma. She'd never had an issue before.
Is this going to be not my fault? I'm going to end up having to have surgery? You know, or worse, like the pressure builds up and something worse could happen.
She did eventually get set up with an alternative, but her eye drops, one of the drugs a bunch of pharmacists have struggled to get their hands on. Same with hydromorphone, commonly prescribed after surgery.
A heartburn medication called Tecta, or it's generic, pantoprazole magnesium, that's been on back order for over a month.
The reason for the holdup is different drug to drug. Issues at the manufacturing level, a spike in demand. Massey says that causes a lot of frustration on both sides of the pharmacy counter.
We end up having to try to find alternatives that we recommend to physicians, and then physicians end up wasting a lot of time reading through multiple communications.
It's adding unnecessary time to a very simple process.
Dr. Alan Grill explains back orders also create scheduling complications for patients and may slow down getting the support they need.
You really should be speaking to the patient to let them know what's happening. So in some cases, your community pharmacist will do that. But in other cases, the patient will then potentially book a second appointment to find out why you changed your mind on the medication.
It helps when pharmacists recommend an alternative they do have in stock. Massey wants to eliminate that step.
Pharmacists should be allowed to switch medications went on back order to a drug in the same class that's equally efficacious with a similar side effect profile.
He's pleading for better communication from Health Canada about shortages and what's being done to mitigate them.
We just wake up in the morning and we find that a drug is not available. And I think that that's not acceptable.
Ontario has allowed pharmacists to administer more vaccines and treat more minor ailments, but Massa would like to see that pushed even further. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
A 27-year-old was caught speeding once again. He's a repeat offender. According to the SQ, he was stopped on the 25 near Terrebonne on Wednesday for driving 177 kilometers in a 100-kilometer-an-hour zone. The St. Julien resident had his license suspended for 30 days, received a $1,500 ticket and 14 demerit points. Well, access to the mountain will be limited at the end of the month, and the REM will be delayed this weekend. Work on the REM network means it will only start running at 7:30 a.m. on Saturday and noon on Sunday. From June 30th to July 10th, Camillion Oud Road over Mount Royal will be closed for paving and scaffolding work. The road will be closed to car, bicycle, and pedestrian traffic. Up next, things to consider when deciding what to drive for your summer road trip.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
Increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
If you're planning a summer road trip, you have to factor in the price of gas. And while the cost of fuel has dropped slightly, it's still expensive to fill your tank. If you're renting a car, you might be wondering if it's cheaper to drive an electric vehicle. CTV's Pat Foran explains why there are many factors to consider when making a decision.
High fuel prices can affect your travel plans and your vacation budget. You may think renting an electric car could save you money.
Charging an EV is almost always going to be cheaper than filling up a gas car. But how much you save, it really depends on a lot of different factors.
Before renting an electric car for a road trip, there are things to know. Are there chargers where I'm staying? Will the car's battery range match my driving? And how long will charging take?
One type of charger is called a level 2 charger. And these are the type you'll find at most homes, at hotels, at some businesses that offer free charging. Now, these are great for charging overnight, but a DC fast charger, which you'll probably see at a highway rest area or right off a major road, these tend to be a little more expensive to use, but they could recharge your EV in under half an hour.
Renting an electric car can make sense if you're staying in an urban area, but for long road trips, especially if you're going off the beaten path where chargers are scarce, a hybrid might make more sense. You can still use less gas without having to plan your route around charging stops. Also, watch out for rental deals that look cheap up front. Some companies and third-party websites offer lower rates if you pay in advance or agree to a mystery car. But those deals may come with fewer options if your plans change. No matter what kind of car you rent, pay close attention to the return rules. Gas cars may need to be fueled up, electric cars recharged.
Some rental companies will charge you a fee if they need to recharge a rental car.
If you book a rental through a third-party vendor such as CAA, Costco, or Priceline, you may have to make changes on the site rather than directly with the rental company. Also, while more rental companies are offering electric vehicles, there may be a limited selection. Pat Foran, CTV News.
A Habs legend just got one of Canada's highest honors. Yvonne Cournoyer is now an Officer of the Order of Canada. The Hockey Hall of Famer played 16 seasons with the Montreal Canadiens, winning 10 Stanley Cups. He won the Conn Smythe Playoff MVP in 1973 and is named one of the NHL's 100 greatest players.
I think the fans, the hockey fan, see me like hockey. But now the people are going to see me as my country. So I think to have both is very nice. I try to do my best on the ice to keep my place first of all and win the game. Winning for me is very important. It's anything. I might not be the best one at everything, but when I do something, I like to do it well. For me, hurting some people said, hey, you were fantastic. And I said, no, I know, we were fantastic. The Montreal Canadiens, it's a team in the world, the well-known Montreal Canadiens hockey team. And when you play for them like 16 years, and you win 10 Stanley Cup with that team, and now you get an honor to go with it, I like it.
Cournoyer was among 8 Quebecers appointed to the Order of Canada. Among them, Juanina Westmoreland-Traoré, Quebec's first black judge, and author and scientist Michel Bouvier. Well, even though it's summer, hockey is still making headlines. In the NHL draft tonight, the Habs selected forward Gleb Pugachev with the 26th overall pick in the draft. The Canadiens originally held the 28th overall pick, but traded with the Vegas Golden Knights to move up 2 spots. In return, the Golden Knights got 28th overall pick and a 3rd round pick in 2027. Well, a Hollywood prop from one of the most memorable scenes in movie history is going up for auction. Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, complete with a severed hand from the pivotal scene in the Star Wars sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, will have a starting bid of $1 million US. The prop was made famous in the battle between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker near the end of the film.
It is an amazing example of a practical effect, you know, in the world of CGI.
Other items up for bidding are Margaret Hamilton's Wicked Witch of the West hat from The Wizard of Oz. The sale will be in Dallas or online starting July 13th. Still to come when unexpected guests drop by the neighborhood.
For breaking news and local news that matters to you, download the CTV News app right now by scanning the QR code on your screen using your smartphone. Or you can also go to our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
Well, we are expecting a drier weekend than last. For our expected high, we had that number sitting at 22 degrees for the day, so feeling a little bit cooler than usual for this time of year. But looking back to our record high from 2003, that number sits at 33.4 degrees for this day, and we could very soon be seeing daytime highs in that range. But for tonight, expecting a temperature of 16 degrees as our low. Also forecasting some periods of showers clearing out of the greater Montreal area. So we have some good news there. That should make way for sun and clouds come Saturday morning. That would be with a wake-up temperature of 17 degrees and some light winds gusting over from the north up to 15 kilometers an hour. For the early afternoon, more good news. We are looking at more sun, clouds, and a daytime high of 25 degrees. Take that in because later on in the evening, we are looking at some night showers coming in. There is at least a 30% chance of that. And if we set that future cast in motion, we see that coming in at about 9 p.m. tomorrow night. So keep that in mind. That's when, again, we are seeing this green around the greater Montreal area, but that is expected to clear out in time for Sunday. And on Sunday, we're looking at mainly sunny skies that await with a high of 28 degrees. By the middle of next week, though, is when we could start seeing temperatures in the low 30s.
Thanks, Anastasia. Well, they are a Canadian symbol, but you don't see them very often in a residential area. 2 moose were captured on video taking a stroll along a street in northwest Calgary, munching on trees and minding their own business. People in the area say animals didn't mind the neighbors at all, stopping to stare and capture some of the videos of those unexpected urban wildlife. Now, due to live FIFA coverage tomorrow, some of our regularly scheduled newscasts are being preempted or shortened. We appreciate your understanding and will continue to bring you the day's top stories throughout our other newscasts and on ctvnewsmontreal.ca and the CTV News app. That's it for us. For the latest, you can listen to the Joanne Vraka Show tomorrow morning at 6 on CJAD 800 or head to ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.